After watching countless videos of legendary guitar players like John Mayer and John Frusciante play, I noticed that what makes a solo interesting oftentimes is when they mix different techniques. So I want to show you 7 different techniques I learned from famous guitar players like John Mayer and John Frusciante, and show you how you can apply them to your playing, starting from simplest to most and more advanced. So let's get started. The first technique is this strum muting technique. It allows you to get more out of one note and have a more aggressive tone. So what you do is you fret a note with your left hand, and then you mute all the other strings, and then you strum down with your right hand. Depending on how aggressive you want the tone to be, you can either strum down on all the strings, or just on a few strings. The most popular song using this technique is probably Can't Stop by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. One way to use this technique is to either use it as a fill or put it in the middle of a solo to kind of break up the monotony of the sound, like this. Now, of course, you can also play an entire solo with this technique, like on Red Hot Chili Peppers' Dark Necessities earlier, if you want the entire solo to have this kind of aggressive tone. Another way to spice up a solo is with octaves. It gives you yet another way to get more out of one note. So all an octave chord is you fret a note that you want to play in the key, and then with the another finger you fret the octave up of that note, whatever note you're fretting. So on the A string it looks like that, and on the D string it looks like this, and then again on the G string it looks like that as well. Similar to the strum muting technique, one way to use octaves is to put them in the middle of a solo, like as a fill, just like on the song Little Wing earlier. Alternating between different techniques during a solo just makes it so much more interesting. Another way to use octaves would be to use it as a build-up to a climax section like this. Of course, it helps to mix in other techniques like sliding for a cooler sound. If you're interested in learning more about the octave chords or just these 2-note chords, check out this video I made where I go more in depth with different examples. One thing you can do to make your solos more interesting is to fill up more space by using open strings. So instead of just playing a note like this, you can pick the open string twice too after this note. So go like... Now this only works for keys that are more open string friendly, like E minor, or B minor, A minor. Alternatively, you can also use a capo to change the open string notes, but it's more tedious. Similar to the other techniques, one great way to use this open string sound is to use it in the middle of a solo or as a fill. So a common technique blues rock players do is actually a rake, especially going to a solo. But a cool thing John Mayer does is actually a reverse rake. It just catches the listener's ears by surprise so well in a very seamless way. So left hand is very similar to the strum muting technique, where you fret a note and mute all the other strings. On the right hand, you're going to put it all the way down below the high E string, and you're going to rake up like this. When you rake up, you kind of turn your wrist so it's almost parallel to all the different strings. And one common thing John Mayer does too is to slide with his left hand into that note as he rakes up. And very commonly too, he does 2 slides. One way to use the reverse rake is to take a lick you know and replace part of it with a reverse rake. So like, you can instead do... Reverse rake is also just a super nice way to get to the next idea, transition to the next idea, like on Pride and Joy earlier. One cool technique to make your solo sound more interesting and not extremely difficult to do is natural harmonics. So they're on the 5th, 7th, and 12th frets. So what you're going to do is, let's say if it's 12th fret, I'm going to put a finger, in this case I'm going to use my ring finger, but I can really use any finger, put it on in a line on the 12th fret. I'm going to cover up all the way to the D string, but usually I don't like to go as far as the low A and E strings because they sound really low. I'm going to lie it barely on the string, so just touching the string but it's not pressing down. Then I'm going to make sure it's hovering on the right side of the fret from your playing perspective. And I'm going to strum down with my right hand. And right after I strum and as the strings hit the finger, I let go of the finger. It gives me that kind of cool harmonic sound. How I like to use the technique is either at the start or end of a particular section within the solo for a cool dramatic effect. What I find is that if I put it in the middle of a lick, it becomes too dramatic and kind of breaks the flow. A super overlooked technique for better soloing is to play using your fingers. It gives you greater control of the dynamics because it's just way easier to control with fingers directly versus pick. So the key here is to use your thumb as the downstroke for lighter touch. And then use your index finger for the upstroke for more aggressive tone. And just use the other fingers as support as necessary. So with just your bare hands too, you can still do cool techniques like the rake. So again, I'm gonna mute all the strings besides for the note we want to play. And then with the right hand, I like to kind of put my pinky down as an anchor below the high E string. And then with my thumb, I'm gonna kind of make a diagonal line down, kind of sliding through all the strings until the string that I actually want to hit. So like this. We can even do a reverse rake. So what I do is I put my thumb, I rest it right on the low E string, and my index finger, I kind of form a perpendicular line to all the different strings. And of course, making sure my left hand is properly muted besides for the note I want to play. And kind of just slide up from the below the high E string to the string that I want to play. One cool trick I like to do with this is to alternate between finger playing and playing with my pick for a cool contrast in sound. So taking gravity again as an example, I can maybe try something like... The last technique I want to talk about is the whammy technique. It allows you to prolong your notes and give it a cool wavy effect to enhance your solos. But it's actually a bit more involved, so I made a video about this here. So check it out if you're interested. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.